All right, so anyone has any questions, you can feel free to ask Carmen. Like I said, Carmen, there's some folks on here from Columbia as well, along with the Pittsburgh media. So
got it.
Go ahead for any questions.
Well, hey, Carmen, how you doing? I'm Rob Beertemple with The Athletic, and yeah, I didn't have that much of a problem saying your name. If you look at mine, you know why. What were your emotions like last night, waiting through that first round and then going pretty quick once they started the comp round?
Yeah, obviously very excited to be taken by the Pirates and a great organization. I mean, it was a pretty up-down night. Just kind of had to sit and watch and just see what happened. And then obviously getting to the Pirates, it happened pretty quick. Got a call from my advisor, and he said, "You're going to be a Pittsburgh Pirate," so I couldn't be any happier.
Who is your advisor, by the way? If I can ask.
I'm with Jet Sports, so.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Carmen, they described you as fierce, some of the people that scouted you for the Pirates, and they said fierce leads to intensity, and that was considered a couple of the attributes they really appreciated about you. How did you become fierce, and what does it do for you?
I'd say that's probably just from the household I grew up in. Always competing in this household. It's doing the dishes competitive type stuff. So just kind of came up in the household like that with always just being a competitive guy. And then that's kind of just something that leaked onto the field for me. And I've definitely learned to harness that in the past couple of years and have the right moments for it and just how to control it. But that's something that's always helped me be successful.
If I could follow that up for just a second, how do you be competitive washing dishes?
Oh, I mean, it's like we have a timer on the microwave going to see if we can beat the clock. But I got two younger brothers and an older sister, and to be honest, my sister might be the most competitive out of all of us. Just to put that in perspective. So,
Carmen, to follow that up, during your ESPN interview last night with Jessica that I saw, you told a story about trying to push through your foot injury.
Yeah.
And you were talking about, I think you used the phrase, I might have lost some friends over that or burned some bridges over that. Can you speak about what you meant by that and expand on that angle of the story and what took place there?
Yeah, so that was going into my my sophomore spring was when I started having that foot problem. But that whole story kind of started after my freshman year. I had a pretty good chance to be the #1 starter for South Carolina and kind of had an idea of that going into that into my sophomore fall. So, I mean, I really just upticked everything I was doing on the mental side, on the physical side, and really just wasn't giving myself enough of a break from the game mentally and physically. And that kind of just led into not only a foot problem, but just, I don't know, I felt like I just didn't have the greatest relationship with guys that I had before just because I was so, I'm not going to say like selfish, but really self-centered on what I was trying to do and just trying to better myself, that I kind of just, like I said, just probably burned a little bit of some relationships that I had. And then obviously getting hurt with the foot problem, I mean, it just kind of felt like it was something that just popped out of nowhere and was giving me problems. And I thought I could pitch through it, thought I could power through it, but obviously couldn't. So, I mean, that was just one of those moments where I just had to look back on, you know, what I was doing at the time and just really tried to better it from there.
Carmen, what are some lessons that maybe you learned in dealing with that foot injury that will serve you going forward?
Yeah, a lot with the foot injury. I mean, both on the mental and the physical side. I mean, I've always been somebody who's just worked as hard as I possibly could, but I was definitely overdoing it. So I've kind of figured out a good routine to where, you know, I still can have some off days and still let my body, you know, regroup and get back in a good shape. But I'm definitely not overdoing it now. And then on the mental side too, it's the same thing. You know, I want to have that downtime where I can get away for a little bit. I'm not just consistently putting pressure on myself to compete. You know, it's I can get away from the game a little bit.
Thanks.
Yep.
I mean, a couple of years ago, you told teams, you know, not to draft you, that you were going to go to college, and you were dead set on that. Looking back, I mean, obviously now it looks like you made the right call, but how difficult was it at that time to sort of take that little stand and say, no, I'm just not ready for this yet?
I mean, honestly, it was pretty easy for me and my family looking back on it. And even in the moment, it was pretty easy just because I really didn't pitch a whole lot in high school. So I was relatively new to it all. And I was just really raw in high school. I mean, I wasn't very polished, didn't have a whole lot of pitch repertoire or pitch selection to work with. So, I mean, I was really just a fastball, curveball guy out of high school. And, I mean, going into my senior year, I had under probably 10 career innings. So, I mean, I was just really, really raw and felt like I could step up my game and potentially go a lot higher if I went to college for 3 years and just polished up.
Hey, Carmen, one of the things the Pirates said about you last night is that you do manipulate pitches well and you move the ball well. You sort of walk us through your arsenal now and how you've kind of developed that pitch mix?
Yep. So right now I throw a sinker, essentially. I mean, some people can call it a two-seam or a sinker. That's my predominant fastball. I also mix in a four-seam fastball. And then my secondary stuff is I throw a cutter / kind of slider. It's kind of morphed between a slider and cutter. I'm actually working on getting that a little more towards a power slider than a cutter right now. And then I throw a curveball on top of that and a changeup. So that's kind of the repertoire I've built. It should be consistently a 4-pitch mix. I don't see myself pulling away from any of those anytime soon. And then just in the development side of all that, I mean, I came into college throwing mainly four-seam and mainly a spike curveball. And I want to say my whole freshman year was kind of just an experiment year for me. I mean, I really didn't have a whole lot of time to develop in high school and kind of figure out what I was going to use in college. So that whole freshman year for me was just finding out what was going to work for me. So I switched to a sinker. So I started mixing that in with the four-seam my freshman year, and then learned a slider that freshman year, which eventually kind of turned into just more of like a hard curve / slider. Kind of depends on what you want to call it, but had those going my freshman year. And then that off season going into my sophomore year was when I added the cutter. So that kind of gave me a 3-pitch mix, and then a changeup was something that I'd always thrown throughout my college career, but didn't really fully grasp it until really this past year for me. So
You kind of self-taught, or was there a coach that really helped you out in your development?
No, I mean, definitely a pitching coach, Coach Meade at South Carolina, definitely helped me out with a lot of that stuff. And even Coach Myers, who was there just for my freshman fall before Coach Meade got there, helped me out with a lot of stuff. So definitely a lot of credit due to those guys. But, I mean, one thing I always try to harp on for myself is just you're going to be the best coach for yourself, especially in professional baseball and even collegiate baseball. So that's something I always try to look into. I mean, I'm always pushing as hard as I can to figure stuff out on my own.
Carmen, when you said about being raw, what were you concentrating on other than pitching up until, say your senior year where you had that lack of innings, and what pushed you toward becoming a pitcher? Like, was there some type of moment that something happened and somebody said you belong on the mound?
I'm not going to say there's a specific moment because there's probably a lot of them, but I mean, I was always a shortstop coming up throughout high school, and I initially committed to South Carolina to be a two-way player and really more of a position player, honestly, because I hadn't pitched at all. I mean, my freshman or sophomore year in high school, and it was more just like a raw arm strength kind of deal to where it was like, all right, probably down the road I might be pitching some, but I mean, I still viewed myself as a potential, infielder or position player in college. And that was kind of what I did all throughout high school, was just mainly a position player. But I had the arm strength. So, I mean, coaches, when I committed to South Carolina, which was going into my sophomore year, they told me too. They're like, just have an idea that you probably will pitch for us at some point, just based on arm strength. So that was always kind of in the back of my head. And then going into that junior, senior summer, that was when I really started first pitching and kind of just had to figure some stuff out, especially if I was going to be pitching in college, and always still play the position. And then funny how it works, get to college and they're just like, hey, we just want you to be a pitcher. So kind of just took it from there.
So you're still a pitcher with a good glove.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And a good bat too. I mean, can't hide that, but.
It's been less than 24 hours. Has kind of everything from last night sunken in yet?
Honestly, not yet. It still doesn't feel real to me yet with how excited me and my family were, but we're getting there slowly for sure.
Has your phone just been entirely blowing up? Has everybody been reaching out to you? What has been some of the reaction from, family, friends, stuff like that?
Last night it was a little crazy just from, the amount of teammates I've had over the years and the friends that I've built, and the relationships I've had. But, it's starting to simmer down now. But, the reactions have just been just saying, congratulations and obviously very excited for me and my family.
Carmen, did the Cape Cod League give you the confidence you need, or did you succeed because you were healthy?
I think it was a little bit of both. I was obviously the best I had pitched yet in my career, but it was one of those things where I felt it was coming. I thought it was going to be my sophomore year, and then obviously figured out that I was overworking my body a little bit and had just like one of those freakish kind of injuries. So, I knew that some good was going to come out of it. I was positive throughout the whole injury, and then just had enough confidence going into the summer and trusted the work that I'd put in to be able to go out there and pitch pretty good.
Carmen, unless I just can't find it, I don't think you have a Twitter or an Instagram, which is pretty unique for a kid your age and especially somebody on the brink of professional baseball like this. What's the reasoning behind that? What's your thought process in not having any social media?
Yeah, so I don't have any social media. I'm not going to say I never did. I think my mom made me make a Twitter in high school or something like that. But I don't know, just never really was around it. Didn't really grow up in a very, social media household, I guess you could say. I didn't have any video games, or I didn't even have a phone until I was 16 or something. But just not big into the social media and just really never have been, so.
Yeah, and I think you couple that with, as we mentioned, the injury, the coronavirus shortened 2020 season. It kind of makes you a little bit of a mystery, I feel like. Do you like kind of flying under the radar and kind of knowing what you can do but maybe not showing it?
Yeah, flying under the radar, I guess, is a good way to put it. But, it's always fun, I guess, being a little bit of an underdog and having to claw through a little bit. But, I feel like I can put my position to where I don't have to do that anymore. Hopefully going forward.
So are you all baseball all the time, or what are your hobbies aside from the game if you're not a video game guy and you don't have Twitter?
A
car guy, a music guy, what?
Yeah, growing up on Hilton Head, it's pretty easy to go play some golf. So I like playing some golf, especially being a pitcher. You got some time to get out there and hit the links. But yeah, big into music too. That's another big part of my life. I play a couple instruments. I play guitar and piano. So grew up listening to classic rock and kind of the old music like that with my dad and my mom. So just an old timer, I guess.
Give us a few bands. What are your favorites? What are you listening to?
I don't hate Led Zeppelin at all, but me and my brother's been listening more into the 90s stuff. So Alice in Chains, Soundgarden, STP, Nirvana, just the good old 90s stuff. But I'm anywhere from probably 65 through 95 is what I listen to.
Hey, Carmen, with the uncertainty of what's ahead for minor league baseball, what do you plan on doing these next couple of months before maybe some sort of rookie camp gets going?
Obviously gonna have that discussion with the Pirates organization and just see what they really just want me to do since being back home. I've been throwing and keeping my arm in shape for the most part without really overdoing it. Obviously with no season going on, it's tough to just kind of get an idea of what I should be doing. So I think that they'll definitely have a good plan for me going forward. Especially even if nothing is going on, they'll have a pretty good idea of what they want me doing.
In the meantime, where are you working out?
I'm working out at Lava Fitness, and that's just the same gym I've been going to for probably 12 years on Hilton Head Island. So it's been pretty easy getting in there.
Carmen, you got a little flow like Garrett Cole. Do you ever watch Cole when he was with the Pirates? What do you know about the organization you're joining?
Absolutely. I've heard nothing but great news from everybody who's told me about it. Actually, Jameson Talion reached out to me this morning. He just shot me a text. So that was pretty cool. He just had great things to say about it. And I've just heard nothing but great news. And obviously it's it's an organization that has obviously high praise on me, and that's something I really appreciate coming from them. So I'm really excited to get with them.
Hey, Carmen, did you interact at all with Nick Gonzalez in the Cape Cod League, the other pick last night?
Yeah, I'm happy I don't have to face him. That's for sure. I think he's one of the best players in this year's draft, no question. I mean, I was surprised he didn't go first overall. So I think the Pirates definitely got a steal there with him. But I mean, he just consistently mashed up there in the Cape. I mean, he was the reason why we didn't, in my opinion, why we didn't win the championship up there. I mean, he hit a 2-run home run to give his team the go-ahead lead in the 7th in Game 3. So, I mean, yeah, definitely happy I don't have to face that guy.
Carmen, speaking on the Cape League, you talked about kind of the difference for you and how you had success there. But looking back in hindsight, how important do you think that was to teams kind of getting a look at what you really can do?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, with what's going on now with the virus and kind of the season being shut down, I mean, obviously more important than I thought it was going to be. I mean, obviously going into that summer, I understood that was going to be a pretty big summer and I was going to need to perform well to help myself out this year. But I mean, nobody ever would have guessed that the season would have been cut short or anything like that. So, I mean, I just viewed it as much as a positive as possible.
We kind of talked about.
Do you feel any sense of? Go ahead.
You talked a little bit about mental growth at South Carolina. Just what was some of the biggest things that Coach Meade kind of talked to you about with that? And now that you have kind of some signing bonus money, do you plan on upgrading from the iPhone 5 at any point?
I knew you'd give me a call out on that, Collyn. But I don't know. I'll see how long this iPhone 5 holds up. I mean, as long as it's not giving me any problems, I'll ride with it. But on the mental side with Coach Meade, I mean, he's helped me in ways that I just can't repay him. I mean, I went in there with, I'm not going to say zero pitching experience, but pretty close to zero pitching experience. And he was able to help me. I mean, obviously get into the first round by 3 years there. So it was something that I can just never repay him for. I mean, I'm just glad that he was there for me.
Back to Nick Gonzalez, do you feel a sense of kindred spirit with him at all in the sense that you guys kind of both have underdog stories and kind of took maybe the road less traveled?
I mean, I think you could probably say that a little bit for me than for him. I mean, he hit over like 400 last year and then won the MVP in the Cape and then hit over 400 again this year. So I'm not going to say he's an underdog. I think he probably gets a little less credit than he should just because, I don't know, I mean, the freak stat don't lie. I mean, really, that's just my opinion of it. I mean, when you hit 12 home runs in 16 games in the spring, that's more than enough talking just with your performance. But, I mean, I don't view him as an underdog at all. I mean, I think he can be an MVP-type caliber player. But, I mean, for myself, I mean, obviously I missed last year, so I definitely missed some time. But obviously I had to climb out of that. But ever since then, I feel like I've been on a pretty good road with it.